Well, that is about the most perfect embodiment of the French civil law concept of parasitism that I have ever seen.
It's vlog time.
You know I'm recording right now, right? Psst. How's it going? Parasitism in French civil law. You know what it is?
Do I know what parrot?
Oh, jeez.
I made you breakfast.
Thank you. What is it?
Overnight oats with some turmeric.
That's marriage talk for food that's been left out overnight. Okay, have a good day. Parasitism is a French civil law concept in the intellectual property field related to trademark violation and related to counterfeiting, but somewhat different. Trademark violation is breaching the trademark of another, using a sign or a mark that is confusingly similar, or using a trademark of another person for your own business purposes. Counterfeiting is when a company unlawfully basically replicates the product of another with no distinguishing factor to try to pass it off as the product of the other, like when, you go to Canal Street and you get these fake Gucci bags. That is illegal, counterfeited Gucci bags. Parasitism is something of a different concept because it is not trademark violation and it is not counterfeiting. What is parasitism? Well, what is a parasite? A parasite is an animal that lives off its host and derives its nutrients from the host's nutrients, from the host's work. The parasite doesn't do anything of its own, it just leeches off its host. But it leeches off its host in a manner that harms the host and ultimately kills it, at which point the parasite has to go find another host to continue with its parasitic behavior. Apply that to law. Parasitism in law occurs when you don't technically have copyright or trademark infringement and you don't have counterfeiting. It is when one company is sort of building its brand or improperly benefiting off the back of another company, off the back of another brand, off the back of another reputation. And in so doing, they harm that other brand financially, goodwill-wise, or by brand recognition. There have been a few recent cases, one of which involved a rugby uniform where someone designed a rugby uniform to look oddly like the all-black rugby uniform. Now, there wasn't counterfeiting and there wasn't trademark violation, but what the company did was build something that was confusingly similar to the existing all-black brand, such that people could confuse by association or think that the two brands were associated, granting an undue privilege or benefit to the company that was sort of sucking off and leeching off the all-blacks like a parasite. Now, I was actually involved in a case in Canada that involved parasitic behavior. One of the reasons why I don't talk about my decisions, victories, and losses is not a question of pride or shame. I am obsessively neurotic and fearful of disclosing something that was not public information. And a lot of times when lawyers talk about the cases, they sometimes get into details that they might confuse as having been public details that were in fact not public details. And in so disclosing those details, they violate solicitor-client privilege, disclose things that were told to them in confidence by their clients. I don't want to walk that line. I don't want to take any chances. I have a bad memory. That's why I don't do it. But you can Google my name and find the decision in which there were allegations of parasitic behavior and applications of parasitism in Quebec law. Another example of parasitism under Quebec law was a now infamous Groupe Page Jaune decision, a Yellow Pages decision, and for... What's going on? Sorry, that's like gas. It was a decision in which Yellow Pages, they made like a directory, and on the outside of the directory they sold ad space. And this other company decided to make a sleeve that perfectly fit over the Yellow Pages directory book, and they sold their own advertising for the sleeve that fit over the Yellow Pages book. Yellow Pages sued, the company ultimately went out of business, which is why we ended up with this Court of Appeal decision that applied the principle of parasitism in Quebec law. The idea being that this was the perfect, literal form of parasitism in law. This sleeve that went over the original book, thus covering up the ads that people paid for in that book, so that no one would pay for ad space anymore on the Yellow Pages, which would ultimately end in killing the host, Yellow Pages, and the parasite would have to go find another book to cover and, siphon off of its goodwill, business record, and established network of business. You know what I mean? Parasitism. Okay, how does this relate to what we just watched in the beginning of this video? Let's see. So what is happening in this video that I call this the embodiment of parasitism in material form? Tell me. Okay, gross. This is parasitism in the purest of senses. What do we have? We have Gordo the Drummer. For those of you who don't know him, he is arguably the best bucket drummer in the world. Incidentally, I had a video go viral a few years ago of a bucket drummer named Matthew Pretty, aka Bucket Boy on the Vegas Strip, doing his thing. The video got like 6 million views. Okay, you gotta get down. This is too distracting. Matthew Pretty is the best street performing bucket drummer I have ever seen in my life. And in the comment section of that video, everyone was saying that he has to have a showdown with Gordo the Drummer. And I looked up Gordo the Drummer, and this is Gordo the Drummer. Doing his thing on his spot, I think it's in Tokyo. He is busking at his typical spot. A crowd has gathered around to see and bask in his awesomeness. This guy on the violin strolls up and starts playing really loud with ear covers on so he can't hear the drumming, playing to his own music, and he's playing, what's he playing? Na 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 da da da.
I don't know what song that is.
He starts playing over Gordo the Drummer. Now, first watching it, anybody who doesn't know what's going on is going to think that this is something of a collaboration. That Gordo is drumming the beat to the violinist and they're doing this together, splitting the tips.
That's not what's happening.
This violinist has waltzed in and misappropriated a crowd that had gathered to watch Gordo. The crowd did not gather to watch this guy. He did not attract that crowd on his own skill. Gordo attracted the crowd. In comes who I'm going to call a parasite, but not to call him names, but in comes the parasite and says, oh, look at this. I can live off the nutrients of this organism. I can get some tip money that's going to come to me because people are here now, and I'm just going to come in and start doing my thing. I'll start siphoning off the nutrients that were going to my host, that my host earned through his own skill, hard work, investment, time, dedication, etc. And the violinist continues to play, benefiting from all of the work that Gordo the Drummer has done. His goodwill, his brand, his reputation, the fact that people show up there knowing that Gordo the Drummer is going to be doing the most amazing bucket drumming tricks you've ever seen. And true to the nature of the parasite, what ends up happening is that the parasite violinist ends up killing the host Gordo the Drummer, who has to get up and leave because he can't do his thing anymore. And this is the embodiment of parasitism in law. You have someone coming in, benefiting from all of the hard work done by somebody else, siphoning off that hard work, living off their host to the point where they end up killing their host through their siphoning off the nutrients and, in this case, finances of the host who did the work. The parasite ultimately suffocates the host, who has to get up and leave. That crowd is going to stay there for a little bit, but ultimately I suspect the crowd is going to die off, and that parasite that came in and sucked the life out of Gordo the Drummer is going to have to go find another host off of whom to suck the life and finances for their own subsistence and existence. And that is the legal analysis of parasitism as evidenced by one busker parasitating.
Parasitating is not a word at all.
Acting as a parasite and sucking off the nutrients from its host to the point where the host has to get up and leave. Now, all of this to say, incidentally, I am doing a live stream with Gordo the Drummer. I reached out to him and he said yes, and it's amazing. I have been interested in Gordo the Drummer since I did that video with Matthew Pretty in Vegas. For those of you who are watching this before July 7th, the live stream is going to be at 8 o'clock Sunday night, July 7th, which is 9 o'clock in the morning, Tokyo time, for Gordo the Drummer. For anyone watching it after July 7th, I'm going to link the live stream right here. Check it out. It's going to be awesome. Gordo the Drummer, from what I know of him, is tremendously interesting, and I'm going to get to dive into some legal questions, some human elements, just to get to know who he is, how he got to be where he is. It's going to be fascinating. All that to say, if you like my content, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when my videos come up. And the thing that helps the most is share my channel, share my videos, share it with anyone who will listen, help me grow. I greatly appreciate it. And now you know your vlog. Peace out. Boom.